of School Directors meeting. It is October the 1st, 2025. A call to order. Do we have any changes, additions to the agenda?
Yes. I would like to cross out your name on the policy work monitoring report GP5 and add mine.
Okay.
So you're not evaluating yourself.
I have one as well.
And
Okay.
Madam Chair, could we also add a quick update on committee reports?
Hearing you.
Not hear anything.
Kevin?
Yes.
There we go. Okay, sorry, we couldn't hear you. Go ahead.
A quick update on committees.
You said a quick update on committees, I think.
Okay. Kevin, I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you.
It's not coming through?
Oh, there, now you are.
Okay. Must have been some glitch along the way.
Okay, thank you. And what was your?
An update on committees.
Update on committees. Okay.
And I have one more,
Okay, go ahead.
Madam Chair. My monitoring report will be on EL6 this evening on superintendent succession and not EL4.
Okay, thank you. And I have I was going to give a VSBA redistricting survey overview, but not the VSBA, but one of the other heads has decided that they didn't want that survey anyway. This is coming from the state. And just a minute, I think it was Martine said that they wanted it to be a very simple survey, and so they had asked VSBA not to do that survey, so there will not be any overview of that survey tonight. Sorry. Okay. Are there any other changes or additions? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move along to the governance process, Section 4, Policy GP2. Bond update and information. Jonathan Garthwaite.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Update on the bond. There were some questions about this at the last meeting, and it was due to be done anyway. So over the past week, Jacob and I sat down and went through the financial piece, and I did a quick summary of the work that's either been completed or is in progress. A couple comments before I go through that. Since the inception of this bond effort, there have been some significant developments. You know, the 800-pound gorilla is PCBs. A lot of the work in the bond that has to do with this facility that we're in has either been deferred until we sort out the PCB situation, or we're looking at phasing in a different light because of that. And you know, the best example of that is the sprinkler system that we know we need. It's 20 years overdue. We did the initial engineering effort, but I haven't paid anyone to do a design yet because I don't know for sure how the building will be configured, and I don't want to pay for a design that may not be applicable when the dust settles and the smoke clears. At the same time, that initial design effort identified the fact that we need another water main to the building to have enough water for a sprinkler. So when we do the drainage project out here, we'll put that water main in. So it's being deferred, but still considered, and there's a lot of that shuffle going on. Another major change since we started talking about this bond is just what's going on with the state related to redistricting. We had initially talked about launching a full-on charge into a 20-year facilities plan, including a catchment study. And at the moment, that doesn't seem like a good way to spend our money because we don't know exactly where the state's going to land. Now, that having been said, I think there will be a point in time where we do want to jump on that and be ahead of that curve. And that bears watching. I just don't think that spending those dollars right now, we would be spending them in a way that really informs the process to our benefit. I think it would be more prudent to wait and see how that effort develops on the state level and then jump in. The way I look at it is wait until the questions arise and then use that effort to answer them in our favor. And then the last piece, and anybody who's gotten a paycheck or watched the news, costs have gone up astronomically for everything we do. My quick thumbnail sketch of the initial thinking, which is 3+ years stale now, is the spend of the initial estimate based on what we're doing and numbers are coming in, and I think you'd hear this from anybody working in this particular business, we're at like 75 cents on the dollar to where we were 3 years ago. So all that really means to me is increased scrutiny on scope and pricing, to make the most of what we have. So I will run quickly through projects completed or in progress. We put in a new fire alarm system at Dothan Brook School, which was needed for many years. That was completed to current code and best practices in terms of functionality. We did that work over the summer. It was hard on the people in the building, but they were incredibly gracious about it, considering how invasive it was. And that work was completed, tested, accepted by the fire department in August. And as far as I'm concerned, that installation kind of sets the bar for where our systems should be throughout the district. So again, we paid a professional engineer to design that system. And so now we have a template moving forward as we upgrade our systems. We put the two roofing projects at Dothan Brook and Ottaquechee out to bid, and we could not find a single resource that would take either one on in its entirety last summer. We had lots of interest, but they simply did not have the resources to execute the work. So what we did is we made the decision on the fly to attack the worst first. And the worst roof we had was the cafeteria at Ottaquechee Elementary. And they did a great job. They completed that. We replaced the roof and the ceiling inside that had decades of water damage. And as much as I would have liked to have executed all that work in the summer, I think it's actually going to work in our favor because we learned so much about the construction of those buildings in that first piece, that the work we do moving forward will be informed by that. I had suspicions about the quality of construction and some of the design intent, and we learned a lot about what it's going to take to do it right. So we had some change orders, we had some engineering decisions on the fly, some design decisions on the fly, and this year we're putting that work out again, but we're putting it out in November for next summer, because we have to get that far ahead, but we can be a little bit more complete in our scoping, and we can anticipate some of the change orders and include them up front as kind of add-alts, as opposed to, it's kind of, we know a little bit more about what we're getting into. We are working on door replacements. I won't go through all of them, but exterior door replacements throughout the district. Every school has doors that need to be done. We went through, and again, looking worst first. Dothan Brook is the one we're starting at, only because some of the doors down there were just in really bad shape and were on their last legs. and we're gonna march through those. Some of them have to be done during times of vacancy, and we're working around in service days and holidays to do that. For instance, the main front doors at Dothan Brook, which there's no good way to do it while the kids are there. The doors on either end of the building we can do when the kids are there. And we'll work with the fire department on egress and all that. And we're as long as the weather permits into the winter and as soon as we can in the spring, we're just gonna keep charging through those doors because there's a lot of them. And we have a standard that we're applying everywhere. The other reason for prioritizing those is we did complete a security audit, and we'll be looking at security upgrades related to access control and alarms and such, and having our exterior doors in good condition before that happens is the right thing to do. I don't want to put card access on a door we're going to replace. So we're trying to be methodical about it, but methodical quickly. The north stairs on this building, the ones you walk past on your way in, and the stormwater drainage, we've been working with Du Bois and King, and for those of you who are around, they're the ones who did the paving and drainage project out front in 2018. It predates me, but I've looked at it a lot. That project involves the removal of that entire concrete stair structure and rerouting of the stormwater and surface water from that whole hillside. That's a very complicated project, both in terms of the structural requirements, the retaining walls, and also just the engineering involved in moving that much water around and under our building. You know, the highest point in the line is up here at the top end of the parking lot, and the lowest end of the line is beyond WABA and the bank out to the interstate. So we're dealing with everything in between. At that same time that we do that, since we have the same contractors, we will address the structural deficiencies in the catacombs that some of you have seen, those posts down there. If we're gonna have concrete pumping trucks and excavators and machines here to do that, it's a short walk. That's the time to do it. So that's one of those things that, you know, in a perfect world, I would wrap that into like the larger high school project, but if we can realize some efficiency by changing our phasing a little bit, we should do that. I don't want to wait. You know, we know that this building is going to be here in some form, so I'm not going to sacrifice the good for the great. I talked about the sprinkler system, the fire alarm system. Similarly, we did some initial study just to figure out what we need, but I haven't asked for final design because that depends on what this building ends up being. The middle school chimney, similarly, we did all the design work, put it out to bid, got some initial pricing, and then all three vendors we spoke with said they could not possibly execute it last summer. So we are putting it back on the table in November for this coming summer, and we're doing that. Since we did get some initial pricing, I think we can make it more attractive because people aren't throwing a dart as much as they were. We can kind of unload that a little bit. Elevator controls in the middle school, same thing. It's under contract. And when we started talking about it last year, the components were 3 to 4 weeks out. And when we signed a contract 3 or 4 months later, they were 14 weeks out, and we missed our summer. So we're going to try to execute that again, fit that into school breaks. More doors, roofing at HACTC. We did the first part, we'll do phase 2. The drainage, the north end of HACTC School, which has been a problem since it's been there. We completed that project this summer, which involved excavating the north door faculty parking, going down deeper than anybody thought, and we put in a curtain drain around the building, and then we connected off those curtain drains into a drain that runs out to the existing storm sewer and then carries it down the hill, and daylight's in keeping with our existing stormwater plan. The contractor did a fantastic job. It was much more complicated than any of us thought it would be, much more complicated than we would have liked it to be. There's a lot of ledge, a lot of rock to move around. They did a really good job. It went a little bit long, but they, you know, I can't say enough about how cooperative they were. In fact, they got a very nice note from Amelia, the principal there, which I appreciated, because contractors don't often get thank you notes from school principals. And they just did a really nice job putting all back together. They're very conscious of There's a memorial garden down there that they worked around, and you can't even tell they were there. The school garden that we actually literally took the whole footprint of the community garden and removed it to 8 feet. They put it back, they put the original loam back, they raked it out. It's like ready to plant in the spring. So that went really well, and that allows us now to move forward with the door replacement, the carpet replacement, the flooring replacement that we couldn't do because of the water problem under that building. So that was a big first step. We talked about the safety audit that was completed a while back. And so next steps for us, for me, pushing a lot of projects into the queue for the next 2 years to avoid some potential finance complications that Jacob can explain at a certain point in the life of the bond. Different fees kick in. So we're going to try to front load that. In keeping with what I said earlier about costs and resources, I've kind of reworked my priorities to focus on those things that can be executed and completed in the time periods we have. So things that we can start and finish and bill out complete in a season, basically. Also focusing on those projects where the components are likely to increase dramatically. So paving pricing is going up very quickly. So I've moved paving up, right? We're going to try to get pricing on paving this winter for the 3 elementary schools. In my perfect world, we would do that last because we don't want to do roofing and window replacement and all that other stuff on new pavement. However, we can get the pavement done and it's not going to get less expensive, and it could get much more expensive, so we're going to move that ahead. Similarly, we have dollars in the bond to replace the boilers at Dothan Brook, which are original, and I am proud of the fact that they run uninterrupted. They're not pretty, but they work. They're also inefficient and approaching their end of life. Again, in my perfect world, that would be wrapped up into a project that involved a building ventilation system with heat recovery and window replacement for efficiency and building automation. But we just can't do it all. So the efficiency we realize from replacing those boilers will be lessened because we'll still have the original windows, which are not great. But it's a step in the right direction, and it will keep us moving in the right direction. And with so many moving parts, I think that's really important right now. So yeah, that's kind of my last point is I am trying to adjust my thinking in terms of phasing and the projects and how we approach them to reflect the changing conditions since this bond effort was imagined. That's kind of my bond update.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions?
Nothing?
No, thank you for trying to coordinate all the moving pieces at all
Yes.
times,
Well,
constantly. Thank you.
Kevin, do you have any questions?
Not at this point. I think
Okay.
that was really well done. Thank you. That's probably why there aren't any questions at the moment.
thanks.
Thank you.
So I guess the only thing I'll add to that, because I know we have a busy meeting tonight, but I've been trying to send out information to y'all as I get it. But the one thing I want to remind the board and keep in mind is that we have 3 years to spend the bond funds as is without any penalty. And then after that, the bond bank, per the IRS, is required to basically run the calculations of the difference between the rate of return on the borrower's interest earnings and the interest rate paid. So basically, we have 3 years without any penalty, and then after that, they would start doing the calculation, and then the IRS may assess us a penalty. But I did check in with Ken on that, and because we invested our bond a year later, he was saying that we could probably avoid a payment, but still, best practice would be to complete it within the 3 years. So we're going to try and do our best to do that.
Cool. Thank you. Does the board have any questions of the bond?
And the only other thing I'll say is, for those who may be in the virtual world, so to date, we've spent $860,780.99 out of the $20,817,875, so that leaves about $1957 left on the bond.
Thank you. Very good. VSBA resolutions work. Preparation for VSBA, VSA meeting on the 29th and the 30th. Katie, can you grab that one? Do you have anything to say about it other than that we are encouraging all of our boards to go?
That was the conference that Jacob and Aaron actually attended.
Oh,
You're talking about the VSA VASBO joint meeting on the
10/29?
Oh, or no, you're
30.
talking, this is the VSBA resolutions work in anticipation of the conference, the VSBA VSA conference
Right.
on the 29th and 30th, where you'll need to vote on behalf of the board on these different
Right.
resolutions. Yep.
At the last board meeting, I gave you all a copy of the resolutions. I hope you've had a chance to at least just kind of glance through them. And so what I would like for us to do, paperclip off, is to look at each of these resolutions, discuss them if you feel that you need to discuss them and talk about them, so that we can, you as a board can tell me how you want me to vote in the business meeting at our annual conference. Okay? So, reference number, or resolution number 1 was Essex Westford School District Board, and their topic was the universal school meals, an amendment to a current resolution. And the resolution board voted to pass as a continuing resolution. Does anyone have any questions on this or any comments that they would like to make at this time?
I guess I'm just not really clear on what the process is because,
Because it's a little confusing?
yeah, well, right, because we were in that meeting, everybody read through all of their resolutions. And the pass, take no position was already in here. That's what VSBA had already decided to do.
This is what VSBA is suggesting. That
That's-
does not mean that that's what will happen
Right, so
during the business meeting.
we're still gonna go and you're gonna vote,
Yes,
so that may or may not.
it may or may not change, but if you want it, if we're looking at this resolution, and VSBA has said that they would have it as a pass, as a continuing resolution, but maybe you think, oh, I don't think we should pass that resolution at all, then now would be the time to, let's talk about it and why you think that, and then the board needs to decide to tell me at that point, how do you want me to vote on that particular resolution? Is that as confusion as ever?
No, I get it. Well, it was just that these were pre-populated, and they were
Yes.
pre-populated at that meeting as well.
Right.
Which was confusing for me.
It can be confusing for me too sometimes, trust me. So does anyone have, I think the easiest way to do it is as we read or as we talk about each one of these resolutions, for you to tell me what you think right now. Do you want me to vote as a pass as a continuing resolution? Do you want me to take no position?
For this one, I would vote pass.
Okay,
Yeah, as would I. Same.
go ahead.
Pass.
Okay. Oh, I thought you were going to say
So
something else.
my question is to speed things up. I've read through all these.
Yes.
A couple times.
That's what I'm hoping.
And would it make more sense to just ask if there's any resolution that we would not agree with the VSBA on?
This is the board's decision. You tell me how you want to do it, and that's how we'll do it.
So I've, a lot of these don't necessarily pertain, so.
Exactly.
For me personally, I would vote to side with VSBA on the
on
recommendation.
each one of them?
Everyone.
Yep,
What about you, Kathy?
when I was on the fence on this.
I mean, that's a lot of resolutions, and it does take a lot of times to read them all.
Well, I guess I was kind of confused as to why on some of them that, like local control of public schools, why VSBA would take no position on that?
Maybe the way that the resolution was written up. Would you like to read it again and let us talk about it? Which one are you looking at now?
Number two, just
two.
moving to.
Okay,
two.
thank you.
Yeah, because number one,
Yeah, you got the number one. So, and when you're looking at these resolutions, all the whereases
right,
will not be itself, they will not be in that resolution. What will be read and what will be the resolution will be the therefore be it resolved, the very last paragraph. The what-ases are more for informational and background so that you know why that they are asking or not asking for a particular resolution to be passed. And remembering too that VSBA stands for all of the schools, not just a particular district or issue. It's there for everybody, and so sometimes when you're stopping and you think, well, why didn't they pass that? That makes sense to me, that they would pass it. But when they start talking about it and when they were in their committee meetings, that a lot of issues came up that it didn't make this particular one advantageous for all. And so sometimes I'm not on that committee this year, thank goodness. Well, I may be next year, but because thanks to y'all who didn't come to that meeting last night, I got voted back on.
This one seems to me, though, that it would impact nearly every district and
Okay.
school board in the state, right? If it's, by keeping in place local control and decision-making for the schools. They're the ones who proposed the resolution, but I would support passing that so we can maintain our local control for our schools.
Okay, what do you gentlemen think?
I agree. I'm just looking at pending things that are happening in the state and saying that might not work out. That's
Well,
what
no,
I'm-
but we can
yeah.
still take a stand and say we want to
Sure.
maintain local control of our schools.
Okay.
I'd like to be able to continue to vote on our budget and,
Right.
maintain control of what's going on in our town as much as
As
we
would
can.
I will cave to that and say I agree, but I might be a realist and see what's coming, but
Doesn't mean we can't yell at them a little bit.
that's true.
So basically, is it the decision of the board that I vote pass on that one?
And so that VSBA is working on our behalf as local school boards.
Right, yes, yeah. Kevin, do you have any response or anything to say?
I think the discussion pretty much covers it. With as much turmoil as there is, and what was fascinating, and I think this is important for the public to understand, that the two legislative representatives on the redistricting committee both voted no on the bill itself. So on Act 73, which is pretty interesting
Yeah,
that
we have-
they ended up being the co-chairs of
Right.
the redistricting committee. That's how difficult this transition is. So anything that we can do to protect, our viability and our strength as a board is mission critical. So I support it.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I will definitely vote that direction. Lake 3 is from Lake Region Union High School, Lake Region Elementary Middle School Board, and the North Country Supervisory, and it's regarding school funding formula. Any comments? Therefore be it resolved, I'll read that part, just for the audience, okay? The short part. Therefore be it resolved that the General Assembly should adjust the current school funding system to address the concern that rising education taxes are unsustainable. This should be done in several ways, including 1, basing more of the funding formula on school district and resident taxpayer ability to pay, and 2, addressing school budget cost drivers over which local school boards have no control. These include children's mental health care, staff health insurance, special education services, and cost and transportation. No changes in education funding should be enacted without a thorough analysis of the impact both on individual school districts and individual taxpayers in Vermont. The board recommended pass as a regular resolution.
I mean, again, I don't like taking anything out of our hands and giving it to the state. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. Kevin? Anything?
You know, I would agree. You know, there's too much at stake.
Yeah. Kathy? Anything? Okay. So you want me to vote? No? Is that what I'm hearing?
I would say no.
Okay. Lake Union High School, Lake Union Elementary, Middle School, North Country Supervisory Union, and statewide teacher control.
Contract.
Oh, contract, sorry.
Careful.
Got control in my mind here today. Therefore be it resolved that any action by the Vermont General Assembly regarding a statewide teacher's contract include an in-depth cost benefit analysis with the financial impact on the lowest spending and highest spending school districts. In addition, a study should be made of the efforts and best practices used by other states to manage teachers' contracts in light of cost efficiencies and education outcomes, and that no move to a statewide teacher's contract be enacted without a detailed demonstration of how it will provide cost savings and better student outcomes. And the board recommended pass as a regular resolution. I'm open to the board.
They're essentially going to do their homework before they make a judgment. Pass.
Pass. Kathy?
I would vote no on that.
That's fine.
To perform the study.
To perform a study, this is for, aren't we on statewide teacher contract?
Yeah, I think they're saying that they need the analysis first before they
First?
make the decision. Isn't that what you? That's
Is
the
it
way I
on-
interpreted it.
Yes.
So this
Is that right, Kevin?
The
Are we both
analysis?
reading that
Well,
right?
It says that no move to a statewide teacher's contract be enacted without a detailed demonstration
Right.
of how it will provide
Right.
cost savings. and
You know,
Okay, so it's
without
just
the
on
data
on the-
analysis.
Okay.
No,
Right,
I mean, that would be,
So I would vote.
that's ludicrous to not do it that way.
Okay. Thank you. Resolution number 5, Lake Region Union High School Board, Lake Region Elementary Middle School Board, North County Country Supervisory Union Board, vaping on school grounds. Therefore be it resolved, the VSBA will petition the Governor and General Assembly to instruct the Agency of Education to reconvene the Advisory Council on Wellness and Comprehensive Health to review the current state of the use of electronic vaping products among Vermont students, investigate ways to curb the increased use in middle and high school programs, counseling support, and preventive education. Board recommended pass as a regular resolution.
Yeah.
Pass.
Pass.
Yeah. Kevin? Are you-
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Resolution number 6, Keachum School Board, retaining elementary schools statewide. Therefore, it be it resolved that the VSBA advocates for strong, meaningful participation and decision-making by local school boards during all remaining phases of Vermont's long-term education transformation process, especially regarding decisions that affect the future of their schools. Additionally, VSBA supports a process for a community served by a school to have a voice in decisions regarding school closures. The board recommends passing as a regular solution. What does my board say?
That's number 7 you just read.
I agree.
I read number 6.
No, you just read number 7.
Sorry. Let me try that again. Well, do you want to look at number 7 right now too? Well, I've already read it and I won't have to read it again, then I'll read number 6. What about about number 7?
It's kind of a vague resolution, but, I mean, I would say pass if the resolution is just that they want to have meaningful conversations with communities, with schools that would be impacted, so.
How about you, Kevin?
Analysis is necessary. And, that's fair and equitable.
Right.
To those communities as well, so.
Yeah, they've been having a lot of discussions in that area. All right, now let me
Oh, yeah.
try this again. Number 6. Be it therefore that be it resolved that the Vermont School Boards Association advocates for policies and resources that recognize the unique value and contributions that community primary elementary schools provide to the communities they serve. They are a cornerstone of their communities and create identity and connection that is mutually essential, providing educational, cultural, and economic vitality for Vermont communities. And the board recommended a pass on that one.
Pass?
That's a pass.
Yeah, I thought so. Good deal. See if I can keep this straight this time.
So now you're number 8.
Yes. Okay. Number 8 comes from Wyndham Southeast Supervisory District School Board and Wyndham Supervisory Union Board. And it's the topic is the consolidation of schools. Therefore, be it resolved that the Vermont School Boards Association will vigorously oppose any legislation that forces the consolidation of school districts, makes it easier to close small schools against the will of the community, imposes minimum class sizes on small elementary schools, and further, be it resolved that the VSBA will actively support legislation that ensures local communities retain a strong and meaningful voice in all decisions about the future of their schools. The board recommended to take no position at that time.
That's a strong pass for me.
See, at this point, we're going all in, so it's passed now.
Yeah, for you too. Kevin?
I'm with the group.
Okay. Super. Okay, resolution number 9 comes from VSBA positions on legislator from the Ludlow Mount Holly UUSD Board. Number 9, okay. Therefore, be it resolved that the VSBA will vigorously oppose any legislation that seeks to force the consolidation of school districts or make it easier to force the closure of small schools, or will impose minimum school class sizes on a small elementary schools, and will support legislation to ensure that local communities have a strong voice in deciding whether small schools should close.
Pass.
That's a pass.
Kevin?
Yes.
Okay.
Are 9 and 10 exactly the same?
Let's
Or
see.
are 9, 10, and 11 exactly the same?
Let's see.
They are.
Yes, they are. So are we doing a pass on all three of
We should
those?
probably read them for any folks online.
Okay, I can do that.
Just the quick,
Sure.
be it resolved.
The B.
That makes sense.
Therefore, this is number 10, and it is coming from Wells Springs Unified Union School District Board. Therefore, be it resolved that the VSBA will vigorously oppose any legislation that seeks to force the consolidation of school districts or make it easier to force the closure of small schools, or will impose minimum class sizes on small elementary schools, and will support legislation to ensure that local communities have a strong voice in deciding whether small schools should close. And you said a pass on that? Okay, number 11 comes from Lincoln School District Boards. And it is forced district consolidation due process. Therefore, be it resolved that the VSBA will vigorously oppose any legislation that seeks to force the consolidation of school districts or make it easier to force the closure of small schools, or that will impose minimum class sizes on small elementary schools, or impose mandated district sizes, and will support legislation to ensure that local communities have a strong voice in deciding whether schools should close.
Pass.
Pass? Kevin?
Yes.
Okay. Lincoln, where are you? Have you got, oh, that is this one. Is it this one? Forced district consolidation due process. That's the one I just read, isn't it?
Yep.
Current resolutions. All right, so the next one, 2, 3, 4 pages are current resolutions that that have already been accepted and taken into the bylaws of VSBA. So the ones that have asterisks by them are in place for 1 year and are deleted, sunsetted, unless acted upon. Others continue unless deleted. Wow, that's a lot to read. Jeremy, would you like to take over? with reading?
Sure.
Please, thank you.
Reading later, too. So Resolution
So
IJ.
do you want me to read some? You read some, or?
Yeah, that would be
I'll-
good.
I'll start this one.
Whatever.
Timely and reliable information and implementation. The VSBA will prioritize and use its influence to support Vermont school boards in ensuring that business managers, superintendents, and school boards receive required, useful, and timely information from the Agency of Education. I would also continue that as a regular resolution.
Okay.
Kathy?
Oh, read the next
Do
one.
we have to vote? You want us to vote on each one of these two?
Yes,
I thought
please.
these were already.
These were already,
These are there, we just,
but their recommendation is to continue it
yes,
as a regular.
there's some that,
Okay.
Keep going, or do
Keep
you
going.
want a decision? Okay. Resolution IK, monitor outcomes from Act 46 goals. The VSBA declares that the Secretary's adherence to the dictates of Act 46 to comprehensively compile and analyze data and present the report with the required conclusions and recommendations is a matter of the highest priority for its member school districts. Consideration is to restate to address any statewide consolidation and outcomes. Continue as a regular resolution.
does anybody have any objection to that? To continue as a regular resolution? Okay, I'll take that as a positive then.
Resolution IM, Governance of Career and Technical Education, CTE Schools, 2020 updated 2022. A study should be conducted to better understand the variety of CTE governing models operations, and budgeting structures that exist across the state. The study would examine any inconsistencies that impact student learning and outcomes and identify and propose new models of funding and governance structures to improve the quality, duration, and access to career technical education in Vermont. Continue as a regular resolution. Any objections?
Good deal.
IN, governance standards. The VSBA advocates for significant input on the school district quality standards adopted by rule of the AOE regarding the business, facilities management, and governance practices of school districts. The recommendation is to delete because this work is complete.
Agreed, everyone? Okay.
Yep.
Resolution IO, remote school board meetings. The General Assembly should amend Vermont's open meeting law to make fully remote meetings a permanent voluntary option. Board recommendation is to delete because open meeting law has been taken up over the past 2 years, and this has not been approved, and there are ongoing concerns about broadband coverage in rural areas.
Agreed?
I mean, I wouldn't agree with deleting. I mean, I would agree with leaving remote meetings as an option. As an option. It makes it more accessible.
Yeah.
For anybody.
Okay, what's the,
They're not outlawed.
Will of the
They're
board.
just deleting the resolution, correct?
right.
I don't see us getting rid of them, but I don't think the language necessarily matters.
Yeah, I mean, I would support leaving it as an option, but
Kevin, do you have anything you would like to say on this one?
No, these are ongoing discussions.
Yeah,
I
right.
think, if those of you that were at the meeting, last night, the regional meeting, you get an idea as to where things are at present. And needless to say, they are in the midst of a kerfuffle.
because they promised broadband and
So I support it.
Okay, thank you.
Support the deletion or support keeping it?
Kevin, I think he means are you supporting the current resolution, or are you supporting deleting it?
Yes. Supporting the resolution.
Okay, Thank you.
Because it's in the best interest, of every school board in the state and all of our kids. And that's something that they need to keep in mind. And I will be resolute in that.
So my issue for this is the wording fully remote.
it's fair. Should be hybrid.
I would like a hybrid where it's in person as well as remote. So I don't like the wording of it. Fully remote to me is nobody is together. So I would,
okay.
based on that wording, I would delete it. Or amend it to say hybrid.
Okay,
Well, the thing is, we can amend these because that's our position as a board. If we have a question around language, that's our right, as a board to,
and then I would bring it up during the business meeting that we would like to amend it to read.
to ask
Hybrid.
Nancy, to represent our position.
Resolution IIC, Adult Students in Technical Education, 1997. The VSBA urges the General Assembly to fund 100% of the costs of educating in technical education centers. Vermont residents over 21 years of age who lack a high school diploma and are not enrolled for purposes of pursuing a graduation from a high school or technical center. The board recommendation is to amend and continue as a continuing resolution.
Any comments?
Nope.
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Resolution IIE, Common Level of Appraisal. The VSBA calls upon the Governor and General Assembly to study the mechanics of the Common Level of Appraisal and its effect on education property tax rates. We especially ask for consideration of the effect that calculation and application of the CLA has on small towns. we ask for consideration of alternative methods of adjusting property values for taxation, including but not limited to developing a regional CLA or a rolling reappraisal system. 3, we ask for examination of a more equitable system of calculating the CLA, which could include such approaches as A, automatically excluding high-value outliers from calculations, B, re-examining how properties are categorized, C, limiting the punitive impacts of annual changes in a community's CLA that result from local reappraisals. And we ask for this study to consider the effect these recommendations would have on the education fund. Board recommendation is to continue as a regular resolution, which I would agree.
Yep.
Resolution IIF, reform the education tax system. The General Assembly should examine alternative funding sources for our education system that are more equitable and sustainable, rather than continue a system that predominantly relies on the property tax for revenue.
Strongly agree.
Yeah, I think so. Broadband access for education, 2020. That providing universal access to high-speed broadband services for every student and family in Vermont must be a goal of the highest order for the government of the state of Vermont, and where access to such broadband services is available but cannot be reasonably afforded by families with students in our schools, that some form of financial support should be made available to those families, although not as an additional unfunded cost to the school districts, to ensure that the students in those families have the high-speed broadband service necessary to support their education. Continue.
Strongly agree.
Yep. Education finance. Resolution IIR, Education Finance 2021. The VSBA fully supports the findings as presented in the Pupil Weighting Factors Report dated December 24th, 2019. And furthermore, the VSBA requests that the Vermont Legislature to thoughtfully and expeditiously establish an implementation plan for the report's recommendations. Delete, because new weights are outlined as a part of the foundation formula.
Any opposition? Okay.
Resolution IIT, separation of church and state. The General Assembly must act to bring Vermont tuition reimbursement policy and practice into compliance with the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling in the Carson v. Macon without violating the compelled support clause in Article 3 of Chapter 1 of the Vermont Constitution. Board recommendation is to continue as a continuing resolution. I would agree.
Any opposition?
Resolution IIIG, School District Innovation Zones. VSBA supports legislation authorizing the creation of innovation zones to exempt supervisory unions and/or districts from the specific regulation and policy in order to create models of world-class education systems that can be scaled across the state. Consideration, innovation zones was a concept discussed in 2013. H615 was introduced but did not move through the legislative process. The term is antiquated. Delete is the recommendation.
Any opposition?
No.
No.
Okay.
How many more were there here? Who wants to take over? I need a
Oh,
drink.
this is a long one.
My bad. I can read it.
Okay. Resolution III. Equity and Anti-Racism, 2020, updated 2021. The VSBA is committed to the success of every student, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, family economics, class, citizenship, immigration status, geography, ability, language, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or initial proficiencies. VSBA will incorporate principles of equity within all policies, operations, practices, and resource allocations, which may include the use of an equity lens when responding to proposed legislation. The VSBA should demonstrate and promote the unequivocal collective responsibility for equitable and inclusive education environments by recognizing, responding, and speaking out against injustice and racial inequity. In support of this goal, the VSBA commits to the following. 1, promote and support implicit bias training for all faculty and staff in Vermont public schools, including athletic and co-curricular personnel and officials across the state. And 2, promote professional learning for school leaders and school board members that include but not be limited to equity literacy, curriculum audits, review protocols for examining bias in school policies and procedures, culturally responsive instruction and school culture, student leadership and voice, and examining power and privilege in schools. Board recommendation, amend and continue as a continuing resolution, reflect changes to Vermont Public Accommodation Act, adding citizenship and immigration status.
Any opposition?
No.
Next,
No.
IIIJ, School Stabilization, Student Mobility, and Resilience, 2020. For those entering or currently enrolled high school students whose fixed permanent legal residence changes to a different fixed permanent legal residence and who wish to remain in their current district, the General Assembly should provide an additional mechanism beyond 16 VSA 822 to allow for students to complete their secondary education within the district where they were registered during any year in grades 8 through 11. This mechanism should provide a process by which the current district retains the student in their ADM count versus transferring the ADM to the new district of legal residence. Nothing in this mechanism shall apply to students eligible for homeless status who are protected under law. Board recommendation, delete because this is financially challenging for small school districts and tuitioning school districts.
Any opposition?
No.
Okay.
Resolution VF, flavored tobacco products, 2023. The VSBA supports a ban on the sale of flavored cigarettes, flavored e-cigarettes, and flavored substances that contain nicotine or are otherwise intended for use in an e-cigarette. Board recommendation, delete because Vermont passed a ban in 2024.
Any opposition?
Nope. Resolution VG, restraint and seclusion, 2023. The VSBA calls on the General Assembly to prohibit the use of restraint and seclusion in any learning environment that receives public funds from the state of Vermont, except when there is a threat of imminent danger of serious physical harm to the student or others, and when it occurs in a manner that protects the safety of all children. Further, the VSBA calls for thorough data reporting requirements that would provide student demographic information and the development and implementation of statewide technical assistance to promote positive development of youth through evidence-based, developmentally appropriate programs. Technical assistance should address consistent and accurate reporting to include demographic information. Board recommendation, delete because data is reported and it is unclear what this resolution aims to achieve.
Any opposition?
No. Resolution VI, cell phones in schools, 2024. The VSBA supports legislation that would require school districts to adopt a policy concerning use of cell phones and other personal electronic devices in schools. The policy shall address, at a minimum, the specific circumstances or time periods during which cell phones or personal electronic device use is permitted, when their use is prohibited, and any relevant exceptions for instances such as disability accommodation, medical need, or other emergency. Board recommendation, delete because Act 72, 2025 requires a policy to address this.
Any opposition? Okay, I have the will of the board here, and I will vote per what our board has come up with, okay? Report out on the regional redistricting meeting on 9/18, an overview by board members Kevin Christie and Jeremy Warren.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my notes here somewhere. So we met with Mountain View Supervisory Union and Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union to discuss potential unification, knowing that we're likely going to be lumped into the same boat with the current legislation in Act 73. And it was really just a meeting of the minds to see where everyone stood on what the thoughts were. No decisions were made, other than, as an individual, I said I would be willing to support it, as did Coach. And what they decided upon was writing a letter of intent and handing it in person to our representatives. And I brought a copy of the letter, which I will read out, but it's to the Deer School District Redistricting Task Force. Mountain View Supervisory Union, Hartford School District, and Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union are committed to working with the state of Vermont to fulfill the goals of Act 73. This legislation is intended to create more efficient and equitable school districts that will improve the quality of education for all Vermont students. After a recent conversation among the three school boards, we agreed that our supervisory unions and districts have similar education goals, share a career and technical center, the HACTC, and are geographically aligned to form an effective regional unit, and we are exploring both supervisory union and supervisory district structures. We support the redistricting task force consideration of our three distinct districts, Mountain View Supervisory Union, Hartford School District, and Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union, as a new larger unit in compliance with Act 73, as it will be a practical and effective path to meeting the state's goals while protecting our communities, ensuring the long-term sustainability of our schools.
Where is Mountain View? Where's that?
Somebody else?
I didn't hear the question.
Oh, it's Woodstock?
Woodstock, yeah.
Oh, that's not what I.
Kevin, do you have anything to add?
You know, I think the letter, you know, pretty much speaks for itself. And from the report from the redistricting committee last night, as far as where they are, you know, they're still formulating, you know, a map. And what came out of the discussion with the Q&A last night is they're still trying to determine if the 4,000 to 8,000 number for the pupil size of the districts is going to be functional, and where is it going to be and where it will not. So us being proactive within, you know, our working groups makes good sense. Otherwise, we are going to be told where we end up, because obviously we don't meet that baseline criteria of a minimum of 4,000 students. So that, I guess that's just the technical side of things.
Other concerns that were brought up during the meeting were the Weathersfield and Heartland have school choice, and they would likely lose that anyways when the Act 73 rolls out. And then not meeting the minimum amount of required students for the district. And obviously, the things that we've already discussed versus, you know, different contracts, schedules, and timelines, different pay, all of those items that, you know, are still concerns for us all.
And as Kevin said, according to the meeting last night, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. I think it's going to be gone. I'll say this very quickly. The committee is not finished, and they still have a lot of concerns, and they still have a lot of questions that they haven't gotten answers to yet. So we haven't gotten answers to it, but
Right.
they are still working very diligently to get that done. And it's not going to be done overnight, unfortunately, or fortunately.
You know, except they do have a deadline.
They do have what?
It-
Deadline.
Oh, yes, they
Their
do have
report,
deadlines. Yes,
their report has to be completed before the start of the next session.
right.
You know, so they have to come up with a recommendation. They're just not close to that answer as yet.
I can imagine the numbers of hours they put in on this. Does anyone, anyone from the board have anything else on that subject?
I mean, I'll just say that I don't like it, but I understand that we most likely won't end up with a choice. You know, as a taxpayer in Hartford and somebody that grew up in this town and chose to stay in this town and raise my family in the town, it's a difficult pill to swallow that my kids may not go to Hartford High School or the middle school. Yeah, so just put that out there.
Agreed.
It's very understandable. Yes, you're not the only parent feeling that way.
And I think we really need, as a community, to care about our more rural communities, because this is going to have a much more devastating impact on them. We will likely grow where they will not. And we need this community to care about those communities as well.
Absolutely, Kathy, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, so let's take Weathersfield and Heartland into consideration. You know, people move to those towns because of school choice, and that's going to be taken away from them. So, I mean, I think we all are on the same concern, have the same concerns regarding this. But if it moves forward, we won't have a choice. So we're trying to be as proactive and positive as we can.
Right.
With something that we don't like. So.
Absolutely.
And it's not too late for community members to speak up to their representatives
That's absolutely
and their
right.
legislators.
That's right. I don't have the, I'll try to get them out. I don't have the meeting dates, but they've got 4 more community public meetings that are going to be doing, that they're going to do. That's 4 more than they were required to do for getting the public's, to hear what the public has to say about it. I'll get those out so you can have them. Report out on the VSA, VSBA joint meeting of September the 23rd and September the 24th, and overview by Jacob, please. And, excuse me, and Aaron, sorry, didn't mean to leave you out.
That's fine. Yeah, so Jacob and I went last.
Somebody's playing the drums.
Drum roll, please.
All right, let me try that again. Yeah. So Jacob and I attended this meeting last week, the VSBA and VSA, and there was definitely some themes within the meeting. Just a few things that I will share with you, some stats that they provided that I thought were pretty incredible, and along with those, they really highlighted the cost of education in the state right now, and I think that's probably, they did that on purpose. But health care benefits in education for the state right now is $365 million. The family plan for health care in fiscal year 2018 was just over 17,000. For this school year, it is over 40,000. So that increase over the last few years has been incredible. One of the stats that they gave was currently adult to pupil for the Northeast is 5.5 pupils per adult, and in Vermont that is 4.4. So the number of adults that would need to be, quote unquote, removed from the system to reach the Northeast was 3,800 adults from the system in the state of Vermont. So they said over the last 3 years, the mental and behavioral health positions in schools has increased 456%. So those were a few of the stats that they provided. And Jacob will talk a little bit here as well, but one of the things that they kept talking about was the cost of instability. So instability of the AOE, instability of district funds and federal funds for future planning. They brought up several times the importance of future planning and budgeting right now. And four of the major parts of that were facilities upkeep, which I think we certainly see that now, transportation needs, special education, and then they're also grappling with CTE funding, which was something that there was a struggle with as well. So those were a few things that I came away from. Jacob?
Yeah, so one of the presentations that I really enjoyed was working with your board, and that was a presentation that I sent to you all, because I think it's important to start to think through how we work together to develop your budget. It's not my budget, it's yours. So again, kind of going through that and figuring out where it is that we want to go. Obviously, with Act 73, I think, one of the other takeaways from day 2 of the conference was there's still a lot up in the air that they have not yet addressed through the legislature, and there's a lot more work that needs to be done. I know our group has been kind of spiraling with all of this. We did get to meet with Representative Kornheiser to kind of talk through some of the issues and concerns that we have about Act 73 as it stands today. But right now, I think we have a lot more questions than we do answers at this point, so.
Yeah, I feel like we both left, after the first night, we talked about it, and then after the second day, we talked about it, and we both felt like we left with more questions than we got answers while we were there. And a lot of the conversation was around Act 73 and just the uncertainty all the way across the state right now.
Great.
Thank you. Any questions or any comments? Okay, then. We shall Katie, did you have anything that you wanted to say on that? Nothing, just, you got it, I got you. We all know it's going to be a rough year. Policy work, first reading on the board member conflict of interest.
Yes,
Jeremy,
we will
please.
start with a conflict of interest. So this is policy A1, it's a required policy, board member conflict of interest. Statement of the policy: it is the ethical and legal duty of all school board members to avoid conflicts of interest as well as the appearance of conflicts of interest. Definitions: 1, conflict of interest, a situation when a board member's private interests as distinguished from the board member's interest as a member of general public would benefit from or be harmed by their actions as a member of the board. Administrative responsibilities: the board and its members shall adhere to the following recommended standards. 1, a board member shall not give the impression that they would represent special interests or partisan politics for personal gain. 2, a board member shall not give the impression that they have the authority to make decisions or take action on behalf of the board or the school administration. 3, a board member shall not use their position on the board to promote personal financial interests or the financial interests of family members, friends, or supporters. 4, a board member shall not solicit or accept anything of value in return for taking particular positions on matters before the board. 5, a board member shall not give the impression that their position on any issue can be influenced by anything other than fair presentation of all sides of the question. 6, board members shall be familiar with and adhere to those provisions of Vermont education law that define school board powers and govern board member compensation and public bidding processes. 7, when a board member becomes aware that they are in a position that creates a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest as defined in state law or this policy, they shall declare the nature and extent of the conflict or appearance of conflict for inclusion in the board's minutes and shall abstain from voting or participating in the discussion of the issue giving rise to the conflict. 8, when a conflict of interest claim against a board member is brought to the board in writing and is signed by another board member or a member of the public, and the board member against whom the claim is made does not occur concur that a conflict in fact exists, the following board procedures shall be followed. A, upon a majority vote of the remaining board members, or upon order of the chair, the board shall hold an informal hearing on the conflict of interest claim, giving both the board member and the person bringing the claim an opportunity to be heard. B, at the conclusion of the informal hearing, the remaining board members shall determine by majority vote whether to 1, issue a public finding that the conflict of interest charge is not supported by the evidence and is therefore dismissed. 2, issue a public finding that the conflict of interest charge is supported by the evidence and that the member should disqualify themselves from voting or otherwise participating in the board deliberations or decision related to that issue as required by Vermont statute, and/or 3, issue a public finding that the conflict of interest charge is supported by the evidence and the board member formally censured or subjected to such other action as may be allowed by law.
Okay, thank you.
And now we are going to read the policy C7 on student attendance. It is the policy of the Hartford School District to set high expectations for consistent student school attendance in accordance with Vermont law in order to facilitate and enhance the student learning. Students who are children between the ages of 6 and 16 years who are residents of the district, 2, non-resident pupils who enroll in district schools, and 3, children over the age of 16 who are enrolled in a district school are required to attend school for the full number of days that school is held unless they are excused from attendance as provided in state law. Definitions. For the purpose of this policy, truant shall mean 1, a student between the ages of 6 and 16 years who is not excused from school attendance and fails to enter school at the beginning of the academic year, or, being enrolled, fails to attend school. Or 2, a student who is at least 16 years of age and is enrolled in public school and fails to attend and is not excused from school attendance. A student may be excused from compulsory attendance if the student is 1, mentally or physically unable to attend, 2, has completed the 10th grade and is not enrolled in public school, 3, is excused by the superintendent or a majority of the school directors, or 4, is enrolled in and attending a post-secondary school which is approved for accredited in Vermont or another state. Implementation. Annually, the superintendent shall ensure that the school board appoints 1 or more individuals to serve as the truant officer and shall ensure that appointment is recorded with the clerk of the school district on or before July 3rd. Administrative rules and procedures. The superintendent shall develop administrative rules and procedures to ensure the implementation of this policy. The procedures will address the following issues. 1, written excuses. 2, tardiness. 3, notifications of parents or guardians. 4, signing out of school. 5, excessive absenteeism. 6, homebound and hospitalized students. 7, early dismissals. 8, homework assignments. And 9, making up work. The procedures may address other issues as well, including educational neglect. Administrative responsibilities. The principal is responsible for maintaining accurate and up-to-date records of student attendance. The principal is responsible for assuring that the school has the appropriate family information that allows the school to contact the parents or guardians of all students whenever necessary.
Here.
Where's my agenda? And now we will vote to approve.
Madam Chair, may I? There is an addition to the attendance policy on the back of the policy that a team of our district social worker
I have,
and our nurse coordinator wanted the board to consider as an addition to the policy.
okay, yeah, I know, I printed out the original. Attendance. Chronic absence can be defined as missing 10% or more of school days for any reason. Missing this much school can translate into students having difficulty learning to read by the 3rd grade, reaching grade level standards in middle school, and failing to graduate from high school. Making up work missed due to repeated absences cannot take the place of class, discussions, projects, demonstrations, clarification of concepts, and collaboration with peers, etc., that occur when a student is present at school. To this end, we strive to help students and their families recognize the importance of keeping absences to a minimum If a student has been absent for 3 or more consecutive days due to illness or injury, a note from their medical provider is required when they return to school. This does not necessarily mean that the student must have had a doctor visit, but some contact with their provider and a written note stating this is necessary for the absences to be excused. If no documentation from a licensed medical provider is given to the school nurse to explain the absences will be considered unexcused. Once a student has accrued 10 absences, the school board or the school administrator may, at their discretion, require a doctor note for each subsequent absence. While missing school for any reason can negatively impact a student's education, unexcused absences are used to determine truancy and subsequent actions.
Thanks, Jerry.
Now, we will vote on the approval for course offerings and class sizes that was read initially on 9/17.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Did the board decide that the additional information the nurses requested was what they wanted to include in that policy?
Yes, that is
Yes,
the
we
intent.
did. We did it before, didn't we?
That's,
When I first brought it to us.
that's the way I read it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now we're going to vote on the course offerings and class size that was first warned before the 9/17 meeting and read during that meeting. Motion to approve the policy for course offerings and class size.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm up again.
You're right. You're doing a great job.
It's a lot of reading. This is the monitoring report for GP5 School Board Chair's role. It's prepared by myself, and it will be submitted today, October 1st, 2025. The monitoring methods were internal report and direct inspection. I'll read the policy, actually, I might just read the interpretation of the policy.
Do we have this somewhere?
It's on the,
It's on the chart?
yeah, it's just part of our regular monitoring report, but I'll read the policy.
Okay.
So, policy statement and board expectation. The chair is a specially empowered member of the board and ensures the integrity of the board's process, and secondarily, occasionally represents the board to outside parties. Accordingly, 1, the assigned result of the chair's job is that the board behaves consistently with its own rules and those legitimately imposed on it from outside the organization. A, meeting discussion content will consist solely of issues that clearly belong to the board to decide or to monitor according to board policy. B, information that is neither monitoring performance nor board decisions will be avoided and minimized and always noted as such. C, deliberation will be fair, open, and thorough, but also timely, orderly, and kept to the point. 2, the authority of the chair consists in making decisions that fall within topics covered by board policies on governance process and board management delegation, with the exception of A, employment or termination of a superintendent, and B, areas where the board specifically delegates portions of this authority to others. The chair is authorized to use any reasonable interpretation of the provisions in these policies. A, the chair is empowered to chair board meetings with all the commonly accepted powers of that position, such as ruling and recognizing. The chair has no authority to make decisions about policies created by the board within ends and executive limitation policy areas. Therefore, the chair has no authority to supervise or direct the superintendent. The chair may represent the board to outside parties in announcing board-stated positions and in stating chair decisions and interpretations within the area delegated to her or him, and must report to the board regarding such representation at the next immediate meeting. The chair may delegate this authority but remains accountable for its use. My interpretation of the policy is that the chair makes sure the board follows the rules, runs effective meetings, represents the board when appropriate, and has limited authority that does not extend to managing the superintendent. And now we go through the bullet points. So meeting discussion content will consist solely of issues clearly belonging to the board or decide to monitor according to board policy. I found that in compliance. Information that is neither monitoring performance nor board decisions will be minimized, avoided, or minimized and always noted as such in compliance. Deliberation will be fair, open, and thorough, and also timely, orderly, and kept to the point as much as we can in compliance. The authority of the chair consists in making decisions that fall within topics covered by board policies on governance process and board management delegation, with the exception of employment or termination of a superintendent, areas where the board specifically delegates portions of this authority to others, and the chair is authorized to use any reasonable interpretation of the provisions in these policies. In compliance, the board is empowered to chair board meetings with all the commonly accepted powers of that position, such as ruling and recognizing. In compliance, the chair has no authority to make decisions about policies created by the board within ends and executive limitations policy areas. Therefore, the chair has no authority to supervise or direct the superintendent. In compliance, the chair may represent the board to outside parties, announcing board-stated positions and stating chair decisions, interpretations within the area delegated to her or him or them, and must report to the board regarding such representation at the next immediate meeting. In compliance, looks like you're going to be doing that soon. The chair may delegate this authority but remain accountable for its use in compliance, although not necessarily applicable currently. The evidence in compliance and performance was based off of clear board meeting agendas, board meeting minutes, board meeting assessments, and Vermont school board activities. Vermont school board activities.
Thank you very much. May I ask a change of two of the places?
To the,
Just so that we are abiding by correct procedures now, instead of using her and him, to put them.
we're going to have to change the policy. But
Can-
we're going to, I mean, I don't think it's changing the intent of the policy, but we should probably rewrite it and warn it just to be
I
efficient.
just think that
I would agree.
we're the board and we need to
I
be making
might have
that
added
example
them
too.
in the last statement there.
That's
so
fine.
I agree.
Thank you very much.
Think that's it for me.
Okay, thank you very much. And let's see, monitoring report EL6, right? And Katie, you're up.
Thank you. So I monitored Executive Limitation 6, and this is the Emergency Superintendent Succession Monitoring Report. The policy statement reads, "To protect the Hartford Town School Board from sudden loss of superintendent services, the superintendent shall not permit there to be fewer than 2 other executives sufficiently familiar with Hartford School Board and superintendent issues and processes to enable either or both in combination to take over with reasonable proficiency as an interim successor." My interpretation of this executive limitation is that there is a planned succession and that it has been intentionally systematic and future-oriented, focused on leadership continuity with ongoing improvement and sustainability as the stated purpose and goal. So I have outlined that my succession team members are sitting by my side right now. And they would be Erin Tomlinson, the current Assistant Superintendent, and Jacob Vezina, the current District Financial Director. And what you'll see in terms of evidence of compliance is that I've outlined the succession team responsibilities as well as the emergency succession plan. Some of the things that are included in terms of responsibilities are, the work that basically Erin and Jacob are already doing in terms of being up to date and able to take on the fiscal responsibilities as well as the governance and management responsibilities of the district. Some of the other aspects of their responsibilities would be to maintain the networks that we currently are members of, such as the VSA and VSBA, and They also cover between Aaron and Jacob all of the monitoring that needs to be done with the board. So you'll see on the last page toward the bottom of the report that the ends policies and all of the executive lamentations would be split between the two of them in the event that I needed to depart the district either temporarily or permanently. So I report compliance in that their responsibilities have been outlined, and the plan is also outlined in the report for you all.
Thank you. Very nicely done. Okay, one of you, two of you are going to have to take over. It's gone. It's not coming back. Sorry.
Okay, I guess if there's nothing else, we'll open it.
No, I think Coach had the change in
Yeah.
the amendment for the committee's update.
Yes, I just, in order to keep folks, up to date with, we already did report out on the redistricting meeting. We did a brief report out on the VSBA regional meeting. And just to add to those reports, as we've been working through the beginning of the school year through this first, let's say, semester, there's been a lot of activity in the accounts payable and the district payroll systems. Both of them have been performing proficiently, and we will be working through the audit process, which Jacob will be reporting on as that comes to fruition. So I just wanted to give everybody an update, that we are on target, and the start of the school year is always, let's say, there's just a lot going on for the office. Supplying, over roughly 1,800 students and their teachers is a monumental task. And I'd just like to compliment Jacob's team in the finance office for the work that they've done so far, because we are right on track. So that's my update for tonight.
Could you just go ahead?
Thank you, Coach. I guess we'll open it up to public comment.
I'm Colin Butler. I've got two things I want to mention this evening. The first is to say thank you to Jonathan and Jacob for the update on the bond issue progress and status. And I would ask that that report be put on the website so the public could see what's going on. Very few tune into school board meetings and would have heard what Jonathan shared with us this evening. And there's just one question I have that wasn't answered by, if it was, I missed it. Are there any projects that were presented to the voters when the bond issue was approved that are absolutely not going to be pursued at this time, either because of the consolidation business or because funds aren't going to be available for them or for whatever other reasons? So are there any projects that aren't going to be taken up that the voters are expecting you to produce? And then on the second issue, and this is going to start to be a little bit preachy, I suspect. Your work this evening, considering the VSBA resolutions, is exactly what I would expect the board to put a lot of effort into. And I think I probably suggested last time that you're kind of late starting on considering the resolutions. You know, a little evidence of that is the fact that one school district supplied 4 or 5 of the resolutions that are being considered. There are only a handful of districts in the entire state that have resolutions represented in that package that you considered this evening. There's 100+ school districts in the state of Vermont, and I suspect most of them probably do absolutely nothing to work through the resolution package, to come up with positions on the resolutions, to promote their district's needs in terms of developing resolutions and then promoting them statewide. You see the result of that. The state legislature and the governor and the AOE went off on a little bit of a tangent, and they think they're going to reduce the number of school districts in the state down to something approaching 5. Well, that's not going to be 5, I guess, when they're all done, but it's going to be something a lot fewer than the 100+ that we have now. And it just makes no sense to me. I'm disappointed in VSBA, very badly disappointed in VSBA. It makes no sense to me that in the list of resolutions that you were looking at this evening, a number of them to do with legislative issues were marked for no action. In other words, VSBA doesn't want to take a position, or the committee that put that package together is suggesting taking no action. Well, every district in the state is going to be impacted by what's going on with the consolidation stuff that's happening. And I don't think any of them are going to come out better than what they were to start with. What's happening is not going to improve education in Vermont, in my humble opinion. Yet VSBA is suggesting take no action on any of these legislative initiatives. Perhaps if 100 school districts had shown up at the legislature this past session and let the legislators know how dissatisfied the school boards were with what was going on, we'd have a little bit different process going on right now in order to improve education in Vermont rather than to decimate it. So you folks need, I'm not criticizing, but you need to spend more time on legislative issues, policy issues. You need to be more engaged with VSBA. You need to attend VSBA meetings. You all should be at those meetings. You should all be expressing the position of this district at those meetings. And I really would hope that you take a more active role going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any public comments in Zoom? Please raise your hand if you would like to speak. Seeing none.
I'll jump in. So I would like to actually talk about the student attendance policy and the actual, the procedure part from the nurse. I would like to just remove from the policy and keep that as a procedure, but not leave it in the actual policy. And my reasoning is, first week of school, both my kids had COVID, so unexcused absences. Right now, CDC doesn't have any guidelines because they, aren't told to. And so, just from my experience, not all doctors are willing to write a note or just even a contact without getting paid. So I don't think that it's necessarily equitable to all families to get that note. So I think it should not be part of the policy, but if it's the procedure of the school, I would I would vote to pass it that way. Because the policy that's recommended is that, where is it here? Is that the administrative rules and procedures will address the following issues, and that's where I think we're addressing it. So my concern is that, right out of the gate, my kids missed 3 to 4 days a piece, and we could have sent them to school, but we're the parents that don't. And so I don't necessarily agree with that being in there. If that's the position of, the school, then that's okay, but I would like that just to be part of the procedures, maybe for the administration to enforce or design, but not necessarily part of the formal policy is. Because I think that might need to be addressed more often than the policy itself. So that would be my recommendation. And so this is part of the public comments, so I'm public here. Yeah, I think it might need to be on a case-by-case basis. I mean, this is where you go back to, is a picture of a failed test with a newspaper next to it adequate enough? Or are you gonna really force that family that might not be able to afford a doctor's visit or a copay to go to the doctor? So, that's my stance.
May I?
Yeah.
I wonder if it would be the board's will to hear from Susie Walker and Carrie Russell, who drafted this in collaboration with the administrators, and perhaps that would provide a little more information.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's gonna fail, but I'd have concerns about that part of the policy being in there and I know what we're doing to protect the school and the students.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go right ahead, Kevin.
One of the cool things in the provisions for public comment, does, allow, 6 points basically, and it's at the base of the agenda. And so we could direct the suggestions made by Jeremy, to the administration to come back to the board with those findings, of which could include that additional information. But our decision could be made in the second reading. That's just my
Yeah, we could
interpretation
certainly
of
read it
what
again.
we've got so far.
Yeah, I'd be curious
Thank
in
you.
every situation there.
Yes. I had the same concerns.
Yeah,
There may be
you know,
families that
and,
can't
and
afford
I
that.
can remember back when, Amber and Angie were there years ago, it's a consistent, thing. Attendance is, mission critical. So how we, work through that, especially with the diversity of families, in our district, I think that's a very important issue.
Okay, still seeing no one on Zoom with their hand raised. This brings us to the executive session portion of our evening.
Need to read isn't it we're going yet? I'm sorry, it's gone. You need to read the reason that we're going.
I got it.
Have you got it?
I think so. So I move that we enter executive session based on 1 VSA 313A1, labor relation agreements with employees. All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Who seconded that, please?
Thank you, Cherry Tory.
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye. Coach?
Aye.
Motion carries, and we will
begin executive session at 7:45 PM. Are we inviting anybody in?
Not that I know of. Are we inviting anybody else? Not that I know of, no. I wasn't given it.
Okay.
I don't know if I need more coffee.
You're doing a great job, Ed.
Yeah, just got it 3 minutes ago.
So the board exited executive session at 8:55 with no action taken. And do you want me to keep going?
Yes, please.
We'll now move on to the consent agenda, section 4, policy GP4, appointments, resignations, and retirements.
I have one, and I just want to note the language that I'm using. We have a request for release from contract from Shannon Riley, who is currently the school counselor, one of the school counselors at the Hartford Memorial Middle School.
Is that something that we need to take action on, Nancy? To approve the release?
Yes, I think so. Do we? Kevin, are you there?
Coach, procedural
Yep.
question? Do we need to vote on the release of contract?
Usually the recommendation of the superintendent is the basis for our action.
Okay.
Right.
Is that your recommendation?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of, do I need a motion?
Excuse me, somebody needs to move the motion.
Well, if it's part of the consent agenda, we would just do it with accepting the consent agenda.
Who would like to move the motion?
I so moved the motion to release this individual from the contract.
You will move to accept the consent agenda.
I will move to accept the consent agenda, including the release of contract and the meeting minutes from 9/17/25.
Seconded by?
Second.
Our next board meeting will be, motion carries. Our next board meeting will be 10/15/25.
Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Me.
Needs no second? Motion,
Wait,
You
did,
don't need a second. Adjourn.
Nope.
Kevin, what do you want to say?
did we do the analysis of the meeting?
good call.
I got you. Can I borrow a pen? Thank you. All right. Board meeting monitoring for October 1st, 2025. Board was prepared for the meeting, satisfactory. Board's time was spent on ends, not means, satisfactory. Each board member was given an opportunity to participate, satisfactory. Board treated all persons with courtesy and fairness, satisfactory. Board adhered to Robert's Rules of Order, satisfactory, we're trying. Board adhered to its adopted governance style. It emphasized outward vision, it encouraged diversity in viewpoints, it exercised strategic leadership, not administrative detail. It maintained distinction between board and staff roles, it used collective decision-making, it looked to the future, all satisfactory. That's that.